How's it going, guys and gals? Today we're going to go through the rules for the Brotherhoods, and I'm going to talk about some ways in those Brotherhoods where I think they'll become, be able to sort of maximise their potential. Stick around. Alrighty, the Brotherhoods. So we'll go over them in order. So the very first Brotherhood, is called the Sword Bearers. They have a stratagem called Marked for Death. It is 2CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select one enemy unit within 12 inches of and visible to a Sword Bearer's Psyker unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Sword Bearer's unit makes a ranged attack against that enemy unit, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. So that's not specific to any particular unit. As long as you have the Sword Bearer's keyword, you get +1 to hit with your ranged attacks. You do have to have a Sword Bearer's Psyker unit up close. The best ways to do that is to either have an interceptor squad that can go, they move up their 12, then they use their psychic power to then move another 12 and be really close to the opponent. Then you can drop that on there, then everything can just hail a bunch of shots at them. The other way to do it is to either shoot someone over there with a shunt or the Gate of Infinity power, or you can just drop them in from reserve if you want to do it turn 2 or 3. Psychic power, Empiric Lodestone. It's a malediction and has a warp charge value of 7. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker, so it's got a fair bit of range. Until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a set friendly Sword Bearer's vehicle unit makes a ranged attack against that enemy unit, add 1 to that attack's wound roll. A unit can only be selected for their psychic power once per phase. So it specifically says that unit can be affected once per phase. So that is when you get the ability to use your Brotherhood powers multiple times. You can't just go you, everyone just focus on it to do stacking of the extra hits. You just cast it on the one unit, and then if that unit dies, if you cast it on a second unit, then you can get the benefits there as well. But it does specifically say Sword Bearer's vehicles. The first thing that seems to pop to mind is the Dreadknights, obviously, but then you've also got Razorbacks, Storm Ravens, Land Raiders, Dreadnoughts as well, and all those guys are usually packing pretty heavy duty vehicle killing weapons, with the exception of the Razorback, which is like infantry. A lot of the big toughness units, like toughness 8, we get with our multi-melters and las cannons. They're usually going to be wounding on either 4s or 3s. This psychic power will allow you to be wounding las cannons on toughness 8 stuff on 2+, and then you'll be able to wound toughness 8 things on a 3+ with the multi-melter. If you've got a brother captain nearby, he can allow you to reroll those wounds as well, which is just another little added bonus. So the Warlord trait for these dudes. If your Warlord has the Warlord... If your Warlord has this Warlord trait, it can attempt to perform the following psychic action. Rites of Protection, psychic action, warp charge 5. In your psychic phase, this Warlord can attempt to perform this psychic action. If completed, select one friendly Sword Bearer's vehicle model within 12 inches of this Warlord. Till the start of your next psychic phase, that model has a 4+ invulnerable save. Well, you won't be casting that on Dreadknights because they already have a 4+ invulnerable save. You'll be throwing that onto either Dreadnoughts, or you'll be chucking it onto Storm Ravens, Land Raiders, things like that. The Land Raiders, I do find that one of their big weaknesses is that they don't have an invulnerable save. If you keep let's say you make your Warlord a Tech Marine, right? Stick that on him, he'll just follow around the Land Raider and just give it a 4-up invulnerable save every turn. Now if you stay in Tide of Shadows, then your 2+ save on your Land Raider becomes a 1+ save. So you've now got a 1+ save with a 4+ invulnerable on that Land Raider. Becomes a bit more tougher. And then if you buff it up, so you might even spend the CP to give that Techmere an extra psychic ability that turn, so you can cast 2 psychic powers. You might want to cast the psychic power Empiric Lodestone or something. So then that Land Raider is suddenly smashing the crap out of things. So yes, very vehicle focused Brotherhood. Second Brotherhood, Blades of Victory. This is Grandmaster Mordrax's chapter Brotherhood. They have got the stratagem called Radiant Strike. Use this stratagem in your charge phase when a Blades of Victory core infantry unit from your army finishes a charge move. Select one enemy unit within engagement range of that Blades of Victory unit and roll 1d6 for each model in that Blades of Victory unit that is within engagement range of that enemy unit. So for each dice roll that equals or exceeds that enemy unit's toughness characteristic, it suffers 1 mortal wound. It kind of sounds a bit like Hammer of Wrath from the old rules. Basically, you drop your CP, you charge anyone that's made it into base combat, or engagement range I should say. You then roll a d6. So if 6 guys made it in, you roll 6d6, and then if you've got higher than your opponent's toughness, then they take a mortal wound. It's not too bad. It's good at just chipping away a few extra little bits and pieces. With the psychic power, it has a warp charge value of 6. If manifested until the start of your next psychic phase, you can reroll charge rolls made for this psychic unit. So it's a self-cast. There's quite a lot of stuff that you cast on yourself in this book. Basically, you're allowed to reroll charges. It works really well with the Tide of Clarity. Being able to roll your charge, you go, oop, I've just rolled 2 3s, I needed 9 to get my charge off. You get to reroll them. You then roll a 6 and a 1. Normally that would be 7, but Tide of Clarity makes it a 9, so you've suddenly made it into the charge. It has a Warlord trait, Vanguard Aggression. After deployment, you can select one friendly Blades of Victory core unit within 9 inches of this Warlord. This Warlord and the selected unit can each make a normal move of up to 6 inches. So, this particular Warlord trait gives you the pre-game move. Now, you get to do this after you know who's going first. It actually teams up well with one of the other abilities in this book. I'll go over that specifically in that particular area, but it allows you to redeploy 3 units. So you rolled off, you know who's going first. You then go, okay, cool, I'm going to redeploy 3 of my core units. So you won't be able to do that with your leader, which I'm going to say will be a Nemesis Dreadnought for this particular ability. But you can then move interceptors around. You can put an interceptor unit up right in the front if you're going first, or you can put them somewhere else if you're going second. And you get to move them 6 inches. So you take your Nemesis Dreadnought Grandmaster, he moves up 6 inches, and so does the interceptor unit. Then you know you're going first, so you move the interceptor unit 12 inches. You've then got an 18-inch move off them. And the Dreadnought has basically got a 15-inch move, being able to move 9 inches turn 1. And you've actually gained a lot of ground. If your opponent knows what's coming, they can push back, but having interceptors moving up 18 inches and then being able to do whatever they want, that's pretty scary. Usually you'll get a turn 1 charge with those interceptors. Typically I'll be probably taking a unit that has lots of flaming abilities and things like that. Just anti-horde. This Brotherhood's very interceptor focused. It's a very movement based Brotherhood, and yeah, so probably at least one squad of 10 interceptors with incinerators and horde clearing falchions, and probably another one that may or may not have some psi cannons in it, but it'll have lots of halberds, maybe a couple of hammers, and just some things that I can get into combat with vehicles with turn 1. It really just comes down to how my opponent deploys and where they deploy and what they can do. But that one I'm going to say is the movement focused Brotherhood. Alrighty, Brotherhood number 3, the Wardmakers. This is Grandmaster Voldus's and Brother Captain Stern's Brotherhood. So they're both locked into this Brotherhood with their Wardmaker's keyword. So Masters of the Word is their stratagem. Use this stratagem in your command phase. Select one Wardmaster's character unit from your army. Select one psychic power from the Dominus discipline that model does not know to replace one of the psychic powers that it does know. This is quite a very tactically flexible stratagem. So if you go to a tournament or you go into games just with a take all comers list, not knowing who you're playing against, you'll have all your psychic powers predetermined. If you get into turn 1 or 2 and you go, okay, I think I need this power now instead, drop that CP and then it just goes bang, straight onto that one. The other reason I'd probably use this is if for some reason you needed to get a certain power off and then that person that would be casting it has been killed in the game, you can then flick it onto them. So if you wanted to swap your Tide and the guy that casts that Tide normally has been killed, you can then put it onto Voldus or Stern or whoever. It's pretty cool. You got a Malediction Psychic Power. It has a warp charge value 6. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 12 inches of this Psyker until the start of your next Psychic phase. That unit is not affected by the aura abilities of models from its own army. Being able to turn off auras is quite strong. I've been running lots of Death Guard and they have the ability to do this, and it's really makes it struggle city for some armies. There's AdMech are very reliant on these auras and things. The Space Marines can be quite reliant on it, and it saves you the trouble of trying to have to get rid of the character that's casting aura. Instead, you can just pick on the unit that they're benefiting from the aura, and you can just say, no more auras for you, pal. Warlord trait, Lawmaster. Each time a psychic test is taken for this warlord, if the result of that test was an unmodified result of 8+, and it was greater than or equal to that power's warp charge value, your opponent cannot attempt to deny that power. So Voldus gets this power, this warlord trait as default by being the warlord of this faction. It's pretty good if you're casting a couple of abilities like Vortex of Doom and things like that that are just going to really hurt your opponent, or if you wanted to change the warp and you've changed your tide of whatever and you've rolled an 8+ and your opponent goes, oh, I need to stop that. Oh, can't. 8+. Being stopped the ability to deny a psychic power is actually very, very solid. So this Brotherhood's all about psychers. It's in the fluff they are normally as well. In the rules it also shows. So far it's 3 from 3 with fluff and rules. Number 4, the Prescient Brotherhood. Foresight is their stratagem. So these are the Brotherhood that they're the ones that sort of sit around in the fortresses and they sort of try to precognitively figure out where the demons will be attacking, and then they send ships there like 40 years earlier, getting prepared, and then they'll arrive just when the demons are about to attack a planet. So that's what these guys are all about. So use this stratagem in your shooting phase. When a Prescient Brother and Psyker's unit from your army is selected to shoot, or in the fight phase, when the Prescient Brother and Psyker unit from your army fights, until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1, and reroll a wound roll of 1. So essentially, if you're out of range of your Grandmaster or your Brother Captain, you've now got the ability to reroll 1s. Pretty good. Malediction. Fatal Precognition. Has a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select one enemy unit within 12 inches of this Psyker. Until the start of your next psychic phase, each time that enemy unit makes a normal move, advances, falls back, or makes a charge move, roll 1d6. On a 4 to 5, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that enemy unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. A unit can only be selected for this psychic power once per phase. That can be decent because often your opponents are going to need to get onto objectives. You can go, sweet, these guys here, I'm going to cast this on. If they then move, they then have to roll a d6. On a 4 or 5, they take a mortal wound. They take d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, they take 3 mortal wounds straight up. So it's kind of like they've just thought themselves, all right, this is what's going to happen here. We need to to do something to hinder where they're moving, and then they've set traps or things like that preemptively. Stuff like that. Warlord trait. If your Warlord has this Warlord trait, it can attempt to perform the following psychic action. Divination, psychic action, warp charge 6. In your psychic phase, this Warlord can attempt to perform this psychic action. If completed, you gain 1 CP. So the rules for these guys, they do feel like they focus a lot on like precognitive abilities, and their rules kind of suit that nicely. They get to sort of see the future a little bit before they shoot, and then they get to reroll ones and to hit and wound. They get to sort of understand where their opponents are moving, and they can mess with their movement, and then they can gain CP back because they saw in advance what they needed it for. Pretty cool. Righto, the Preservers. So this is the Brotherhood that deals with mostly keeping the Dreadnoughts maintained, and the Apothecaries. They kind of work, they take the dead guys, the dead Grey Knights, and they help convert them over to the Dreadnoughts as well. So this is the Dreadnought and Apothecary heavy Brotherhood. So their stratagem, it's called Charge of the Ancients. Use this stratagem before the battle when you muster your army. Select one Preserver's Dreadnought model in your army. Now, I've had a look in the Dreadnought sections. Venerable Dreadnoughts, they are part of the Paladin Corps, so they actually do not get to take this. It's just the normal Dreadnoughts, not the Venerables. That model has a move characteristic of 8 inches. You can reroll charge rolls made for that model, and each time that model fights, if it made a charge move this turn, then until that fight is resolved, add 1 to the damage characteristic of melee weapons in that model is equipped with. So Dread Fist, basically, it's going to become damage 4. You only use this stratagem once unless you're playing an onslaught battle, in which case you can use this stratagem twice on 2 different Preserver Dreadnought models from your army. Cool. So typically, if you're running a normal, like 2,000 point game, you're going to have it on 1, and that's it. Psychic Power, Aegis Eternal, Blessing, 6 inches. Warp Charge 6. If manifested until the start of your next psychic phase, each time a model in this Psyker's unit would lose a wound, roll 1d6. On a 6, that wound is not lost. While this Psyker's unit is within 6 inches of a friendly Grey Knight Apothecary, if this Psyker's unit is infantry, that wound is not lost. On a 5 instead. So you cast this on yourself, and then if you're within the zone of an Apothecary, you then get a 5 up for no pain instead of a 6. Combines really nicely with the shadows, Tide of Shadows, so you're getting the cover even when you're in the open. And it also combines well with the Psychic Power called Sanctuary, which gives you a 4+ invulnerable save. So if you put Sanctuary on your Apothecary and you've got a blob of 10 Terminators with him, then the Apothecary can cast Sanctuary on the Terminators, and the Terminators can cast this on themselves, and then they can be rocking a 1+ save, a 4+ invulnerable save, and a 5+ feel no pain. If you were to run around with a second blob of 10 Terminators, so for 20 Terminators, stick a warding stave in one of those units, in one of those Terminators, then you can pop a stratagem to give them a 4+ invulnerable save as well. So you can literally have 20 Terminators running around with a 1+, 4++, 5+++ save. Quite durable. That is quite durable. Or if you want to run 2 Apothecaries, you can have 1 dedicated to each unit and just hold objectives all game, and then just try not to die. The Warlord trait available is add 3 inches to the range of this Warlord's aura abilities to a maximum of 12. The reason I put the maximum of 12 in there is that there's also a stratagem which can boost your range of your auras. So the Apothecary's aura is only 3 inches. If you put this on him, it takes him to 6. Typically 3 inches is more than enough because you'll stick him in with the unit you want to keep alive anyways. The Apothecary can then also do other things on the unit, like bring guys back from the dead or heal wounds off guys, or both. Basically, it just creates a very solid blob of dudes that are hard to kill. So, fluff-wise, that actually does work in nicely. I'm happy with that. So, the rapiers. This is the Brotherhood, the 6th Brotherhood. Their shtick is that they're supposed to defend the fortress. They're supposed to be like the hardcore SAS Special Forces type dudes. So let's see how they go. Deadly Efficacy. Sorry, I nearly said efficiency. It's called Deadly Efficacy. Use your strategy with the fight phase when a rapier's unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 1 additional hit. So basically, when they're coming into combat with you, they're going to punch you in the face, and if they're all 6, they get 2 hits instead of 1. It kind of just shows that they can just fight better in combat. It's pretty good. The Psychic Power. Warp Charge value 6 if manifested until the start of your next Psychic phase. Add 1 to that attack's characteristics of model in this Psyker's unit. So another ability that again allows them to be more like an elitist unit, you know. Stick them in a small little squad of 5, you throw the Strat on there, the Psychic Power, they're going to just punch out extra attacks, and then they're going to get further hits again from the 6s, or you throw a 10-man squad and just buff them like crazy. Warlord trait. This Warlord is eligible to declare a charge with even if they advance this turn. So there is the type of clarity which allows you to get minimum of 3 inches for your advance. So that could be cool. Could be cool on a Dreadnought or something like that. You can do your advance and charge like that. So just another, they feel very elite, kind of like a very elite Special Forces-y type Brotherhood. So fluffy as well. So 6 from 6 I'm thinking so far. Cool. So Brotherhood 7, these are the dudes which kind of deal with the Inquisition. They're the ones that the Auto Malice says to them like, hey, there's some demons here, give us some help. And then they go back and they're like, oh, cool, cool. So if there was a Brotherhood that was probably most likely to have allies, it's probably the 7th. So let's see how they go. They have got the stratagem called Sanctic Guardians. Use this stratagem in the heroic intervention step of your opponent's charge phase. Select one Exactor's unit from your army that is not within engagement range of any enemy units. Until the end of the phase, that unit can perform a heroic intervention as if it were a character. Psychic Power, Fires of the Covenant. Witchfire. If manifested, select one enemy unit within engagement range of this Psycho unit. Roll 1d6 for each enemy model in that enemy model's unit. For each roll of 4+, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If the Psycho manifesting this power has the Psychic Epitome Warlord trait, the enemy unit suffers 1 additional mortal wound after all these dice rolls have been made. Each unit can only be selected for this Psychic power once per turn. And the Warlord trait. Add 1 to this Warlord's leadership characteristic. While friendly Exactor core unit is within 6 inches of this Warlord, morale tests taken for that unit are automatically passed. Okay. Don't know if I feel as though they're 100% kind of like the Inquisition representative types. To me, it feels more like they're a counter-attacking kind of Brotherhood. I'll give them a half a point. Let's say 7.5 or 6.5 out of 7. And finally, we've got Silver Blades. This is the 8th Brotherhood. These dudes are the ones who are in charge of recruitment. They go around the black ships, get all the guys with psychic charge abilities. They take them back to Titan, they build them up, and then they figure out who's best at what, and then they stick them into the Brotherhoods. So these guys have supposedly got a lot of the best sort of trainer types as well. They're kind of like the drill sergeants as well in there. So let's see how theirs go. Adaptive Exoration. Say that 3 times real fast. Use your stratagem in movement phase. When a Silver Blade's core unit from an army falls back, that unit is still eligible to shoot this turn, even though it fell back. Yeah, that's not too bad. You can do that with anything with a teleporter. So, but the teleporter can actually move back and assault as well. So far I'm seeing shooting. Psychic power, temporal accuracy. Warp charge 5. If manifested until the start of your next psychic phase, all storm bolters, mastercrafted storm bolters, and relics that replace either of these weapons that models in this cycler's unit are equipped with are treated as being pistol 4 weapons with a range characteristics of 12 inches. Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Warlord trait. At the start of the fight phase, if this warlord is within engagement range of any enemy units, it can fight first that phase. Each time this warlord makes a melee attack, you can reroll the hit roll. I'm seeing these guys as kind of a bit like guerrilla fighters. They can kind of like move in, combat people, pull out, shoot, stay in combat, shoot. Warlord sort of fights first. Yeah, they kind of, to me, feel like a guerrilla tactics type chapter, Brotherhood, I should say. I don't mind it. I think it's actually interesting. Being able to fall back and shoot with your strikes is pretty cool. Being able to fall back and shoot with purgation squads is good, because normally their cyclones, whatever you put in there, are going to be useless in combat, and typically because you're putting more special weapons on guys, those special weapons are going to be useless in combat anyways, so you might as well just fall out, use those special weapons to effect to some degree, and then whatever. The pistol 4 in combat, that's actually not too bad. I'll just check if it can synergize with Cybolt ammo. Where is Cybolt ammo? Use a strategy and shoot phase in a Grey Knight unit from our selected shoot until the end of the phase. Each time on that unit makes a range attack with a bolt weapon, so they still stay as bolt weapons. Yep. An unmodified hit roll of 6 automatically wounds the target. Improve the armor penetration characteristic of the attack by 1. 6 or minus 2 CP, otherwise it's 1 CP. So you can Cybolt ammo in close combat if you don't want to leave combat. So, cool. I'll probably have a play around with that chapter actually, just for fun reasons. But yes, that's all 8 Brotherhoods. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave comments. Please put in the comments about different ways you may enjoy your Brotherhoods, or what you like or don't like about your Brotherhoods. I do look forward to hearing from you guys. Cheerio.